Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to ReZero, Season 2, Episode 14. We are back with the second half of Season 2. And I'm excited to get into this because I've been watching some ReZero with some reactors basically ever since putting this on hold. Mostly Season 1, mind you. But I'm definitely interested to see more of Season 2 and to continue this storyline. Now, Season 1 and 2 were released separately, so it's not like too out of place for me to have had a break there, but since there was a break in the airing. But I'm still excited. I'm still very much invested to get back into this. Last we left off, Subaru had a meeting with all of the witches. Like, they were all there, including Satella herself. And we found out that the kind of alignments of the witches are not exactly what you would necessarily expect, and that not everything is as it seems. Echidna is not necessarily the good guy, just because she got friendly with Subaru during the first half of the season. And Satella is not necessarily 100% evil either. I think that there is a complex just reality to things here. Like, people, like, obviously within this world view it in a very black and white manner. They view the witch of envy, Satella, as just evil, just flat out. But there's clearly much more to her, as we've seen. And this, again, the same goes for all the witches. They're not, I don't think any of them are fully good or fully evil. They have layers to them, just like any person would. But we also found out that Roswaal definitely is one of the people in this series who leans more towards the bad. In what came as a little bit of a surprise, Roswaal is actually one of the major antagonists right now, having hired Elsa to attack and everything as part of some grand plan to make Subaru stronger or something. It's all bullshit, obviously. But it's wild. Because I never really necessarily thought he would turn out to be a bad guy. I was always a little suspicious of him, but I thought it was more like, okay, he knew a lot more than he was letting on. And he did, but I didn't expect the heel turn, to use wrestling terminology. And now Subaru's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because, according to Roswaal, he can't save both the sanctuary and the mansion. And on top of that, there's still the issue with Beatrice being stuck in the library waiting for someone that technically isn't real. Just because it's who she's always been waiting for, who she was told to wait for. And it's like, I want to see her happy and free, you know? I just really like Beatrice. She's one of my favorite characters in ReZero for sure. Not just because she's funny, not just because she's adorable, but I genuinely like her character arc, and the information we're getting has really added a lot of great depth to her. So I'm very much invested to see her freed from this horrible fate that she's basically stuck in. Uh, in general, in the last season, we also learned a lot of other big information, such as the fact that the great white whale, the big maw beast from season one, was created by one of the witches, and that there were two other great maw beasts created as well, including a pack of rabbits that is basically that they basically share one mind, so they're basically one maw beast. Um, and then there's one we haven't seen yet, and I believe it was a snake. I want to say. Um, but that's interesting that there are two other great mob beasts. We also did see two of the other Sin archbishops at the beginning of the season, but they haven't returned yet. Um, and and there's just so much else we found out and got to see throughout the first half of the season. We got to see this trial in the sanctuary that Amelia and Subaru were being put through, which also introduced us to Subaru's parents and having Subaru get to just like have some closure with that, with the fact that he's in another world and he's away from his parents, possibly for good. So he got to have a bit of closure with that, and it's like, okay, I really like that. But Amelia's not having as much of an easy time with the trial. Otto has returned in this season, and he's becoming more of like an actual friend to Subaru now, um, rather than just an ally, basically. Um, it's good to see him. We've seen other characters throughout the season who are in season one, such as Cruce and Felix, but they haven't been as big. We've had other new characters introduced who had more of a role in this season comparatively, such as Frederica, the maid for the mansion, and her brother Garfield, who is at the sanctuary. They've had much bigger roles to play during the course of season two. Um, but I think we should just get this going and see how the second half begins. Um, like I said, I'm very excited to get back into this series. And I really can't wait to see where it goes. There's so much opportunity for some just genuinely great stuff. And I'm hoping that the second half really just kicks it into overdrive and ramps up the exciting stuff. I definitely want to see the battle with Elsa and all just really hit a huge stride in this second half. Um, Elsa is just such a fascinating villain, and I honestly just want to know more about her. Just honestly. Um, so I hope we'll find out more about her in this season too, or in the second half of the season. But we'll see. We shall see. So let's just get this going, hope for the best, and see what we have in store. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow along to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So after knocking some sense into Subaru, Otto gets him to tell him everything, and they formulate a plan. Subaru goes to Roswell and gets him to agree to a deal of sorts, a bet, um, to basically see if Subaru can liberate both the sanctuary and the mansion. And although Roswell is confused and surprised by this sudden, just what's the word? My mind is blanking. Proposition. At first, he does accept it, And the plan continues. Subaru meets with and learns more about the God, names are escaping me right now. The one lady who apparently has like four bodies, but one of them is like kind of outcast. Ryuzu. Uh, and there's apparently a group of them. There's four of them, but one of them was outcast because of breaking the rules to rescue Gar in the past. And he visits Amelia and just tries to help her see if she can talk about any of her memories. She reveals a little bit, but ends up falling asleep. And at this point, Subaru decides to, call out Puck, who has always been there by Amelia's side. And so we find out that this is clearly part of Subaru's plan, as when Amelia wakes up, she wakes up to Puck being there, but finding out that Puck is breaking their contract. And this was the most shocking and easily most intense part of the episode. And it almost brought me to tears, admittedly. I managed to hold out, but just I think the reason it didn't, I think the reason I was able to hold out was just because of the shock of it. Like I was legitimately just really surprised by this. I mean, it's clearly part of Subaru's plan, and we did like realize why it was happening because it would unlock Amelia's memories. But just the idea of Puck just no longer being there, just not having that contract with Amelia anymore, it's shocking and hard to think about. It's sad because we like Puck. Puck is awesome, and his relationship with Amelia has been great throughout this series. So we're just never gonna see Puck again if this goes according to plan, at least. That's really sad. And so Amelia is obviously very upset by this, and Suru tries to comfort her, and she asks him to stay with her overnight. But at some point during the night, after she falls asleep, he does leave, and I'm like really confused by the fact that he would do that. That doesn't seem like a very Subaru thing to do. But he does leave, and that causes Amelia to run away. She ends up escaping to what looks like the temple, I believe, and um, kind of just hiding inside it, and is met by Subaru there. So this is clearly part of his plan. It's just like, what is he doing? What is the point to all of this? And Ryuzu has now like gotten involved in things, and Gar is looking for her with Otto interfering, like running interference with him, and it's like, what the hell is going on? What is this plan? I genuinely am interested to find out what the hell Subaru is planning here and how it's going to help liberate both the sanctuary and the mansion. It's just it's wild. um, there was some pretty interesting stuff. We also learned more about Gar and Frederica's mother, that she had left the sanctuary when Gar was very young, and Gar kind of it seems like Gar felt abandoned, but he keeps her last name to never forget her, to never to just keep her on his mind always. And he's kind of since then become just very opposed to liberating it, um, seemingly because of just his anger about what went on with his mother. So that's interesting. Um, and yeah, it's also very interesting that after all of this, as part of the bet, Subaru wants Roswell to remain as part of this plan to still get Amelia selected within the royal selection. He still wants Roswell there for that, even despite the fact that Roswell is kind of a traitorous asshole. Um, so it's a little odd, but I guess it's for Amelia's sake more than anything. Um, so there's a lot that you can read into with this, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. We also get tiny glimpses of Amelia's memories throughout this episode. We find out that she was frozen in ice for a long period of time, um, since she was a child, and that she was basically rescued by Puck and all, and that ever since she had tried to wait for her family to unthaw, but they never did. And so she eventually went with Roswell to the mansion and began working on the royal selection. Obviously, with that being her goal, to rescue her family. And it says a lot that she thinks that that's selfish, because that is like completely the opposite of selfish. It's entirely a selfless goal for her to take on. She is literally trying to save others. She is literally thinking about the well-being and safety of other people above herself. Like that is entirely by definition selfless. She is very much not selfish, but the fact that she thinks that that is really telling about how people view things. Like it's just kind of wild that people would see something like that as selfish. Um, but yeah, it's just this was a pretty strong episode to bring us back into the series after that break. It was a good episode as well for like just because of the fact that there was that break like in the airing when this aired and everything. There was that break like for some matter of months. I don't remember exactly how long it was. I remember part two started in January, I believe, of this year, but it might have been last year. I don't know. This with the pandemic and everything, all time has gone screwy for me, so I don't remember exactly when it was. But it's like there was a notable break in between the first and second half. And so kicking it back off with an episode that is this strong, this intense, and even this emotional is smart. It works. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to see how this plan that Subaru has for the bet works out. Because his bet, it seems like this big deal, and his bet is entirely centered around that he's going to solve this in this loop. That he's not going to die and loop around again, but that he's going to solve it in this single loop. So I'm wondering how the fuck he's going to do that. Just how is this going to happen? How is this going to go down? That's what I'm excited to see, especially with what he's put into the plan so far in this episode. So we'll see next week as we continue this. But yeah, for the time being, tell me down in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of ReZero Season 2? Are you excited to be back like I am? And let me know just general thoughts on all of this and more down in the comments below. For now, though, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.